Today's episode is dedicated to my friend Yusuf in Jordan. Yusuf, you have watched my show from the beginning, and for that, I thank you so much. We have an absolutely game changing guest, Dr. Michelle Maidenberg. She is a powerhouse psychotherapist, mindfulness guru, and expert in helping people break free from self doubt and step into their most empowered, unstoppable selves. If you've ever felt stuck, held back, or just know that you're capable of so much more, this episode is for you. Dr. Maidenberg is about to drop some serious wisdom that will shift your mindset and transform the way you show up in your life. So get ready. This is going to be epic. Dr. Michelle Maidenberg, up next. Dr. Michelle Maidenberg, thank you so much for joining us on Different Facets of Happiness. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. So nice to meet you.
You as well. You have authored several books: Free Your Child from Overeating, 53 Mind Body Strategies for Lifelong Health, and your most recent book, Ace Your Life, Unleash Your Best Self and Live the Life You Want. You're also a blogger for Psychology Today, and you recently did a TED Talk on circumventing emotional avoidance, and you are dedicated and invested in health and mental health advocacy. But let's talk about your last book, Ace Your Life, Unleash Your Best Self, and Live the Life You Want. What is the premise of the ACE method for unleashing your best self and living the life that you want?
Yeah. So its preface, ACE stands for, the acronym is Acceptance, Compassion, and Empowerment. And the reason I did that TED Talk that you mentioned is because foundationally, we all avoid negative emotions. It's the way we're wired, neurobiologically, and we just have the propensity as humans to avoid discomfort. So our brain, because of our neurobiology, it's all about security. It's a very, very reptilian brain. And we're always driven by avoiding danger and discomfort at all times. Yeah. So we have that very, very strong survival instinct within us. And that manifests itself within us in all different ways, based on who you are, based on your race, religion, your gender, how you grew up, your environment, and like 1,001 factors. But, people, when they talk to me about their emotions, particularly, they say, like, I don't want to feel that way. I want to stop feeling that way. And I'm like, good luck. The only way that's going to happen is we give you a lobotomy. And I don't do that here.
Well, I'm glad you don't. But I was going to ask you, what is emotional avoidance and how does it show up in our thinking and decision making process every day?
It shows up in our lives every moment of every day. So that's where we're avoiding, again, those negative emotions. So what emotions am I speaking to? We're talking about disappointment, frustration, anger, sadness, all of the array of emotions that we rather not have. And the problem is the emotions lead to thoughts, which then leads to feelings and then leads to our actions. So the resistance to these feelings cause it to actually exacerbate and intensify. So if I tell you, right, it's like the pink elephant. If I tell you, and I do this little kind of exercise with my students, I say to them, get the number 3 out of your mind. And no matter what you do, by the end of this class, I want you to get the number 3 out of your mind. And they're all like looking at me like, huh? I'm trying to. And I'm like, are you going to be able to do that? And they're, yeah, of course. I'm like, okay, whatever you do, try to get the number 3. Are you getting the number 3 out of your mind? And what is your mind doing as I'm saying that? As I'm remembering the number 3, to forget the number 3 again, causing it to remember the number 3. Well, that's your thoughts. That's your emotions. If you say, I don't want to feel this way, I don't want to feel this way, I don't want to feel this way. And I had somebody that I met with yesterday. So fascinating. I've actually seen her. I've seen her brother. I've seen her. I've seen her since middle school, and now she's at college. Okay. So it's been really hard to engage her because she's so avoidant and resistant to her emotions. She grew up since she was young being extremely anxious. She has a highly anxious mind, and that's just the way it is based on her genetic predisposition and a whole host of other factors. And what does she do? She learns, in order to cope with this anxiety, to lie. She lies. That's what she does. Yeah. Now, you could recognize how that could wreak havoc on somebody's life, because what is happening now, she's in college and she has, luckily, a good group of friends. But when she says something, they all look at each other, doubting whether she's telling the truth or not. And then she feels, so we talked about what's the utility of this lying. And again, we've been talking about this for years, but she finally reached out to me and she said to me, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. This is so painful. Right. And she wasn't ready until now, I have to tell you. She's made a lot of improvements, but this area is really hard for her. So we talked about the utility of her lying, why that happens with her, this extreme avoidance. And it became a habit. It's like literally automatic. She just lies. She doesn't even, there's no space between the thinking and doing for her. Right now, it's like so habitual. And the avoidance has become so intensified that it's just like a natural instinct for her at this point. And I said to her, if you didn't lie, what would show up? What would show up? What are you avoiding?
What did she say?
And she started crying. She started crying. She said, it's so much pain. I'm scared that they're not going to accept me. I'm scared they're going to reject me. I'm scared that they're, all of these flood of feelings came up. And I said, what would it be like to just sit in that? And she said, oh my gosh, I'm just thinking about it. And I feel the pain in my chest. And I said, well, what is your body and mind telling you to do right now as you're feeling the pain in the chest? Right? Get rid of, blah, 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 right? Resist, deny, whatever magical tricks we do to get rid of these negative emotions. And I said,
Ask you what is a healthy way to do that and to get rid of those things and just build a better relationship with yourself and with others.
yeah, well, yeah. So we talked about that. You have to do it incrementally because every time she puts her little toe, right? She puts her little toe in, she gets really frightened. She feels the somatic feelings in her body, and her propensity is to run and avoid. That's what she's doing mechanically. So we have to literally help her create new habits, right? When that happens, what thoughts are going through her mind? What's going through her body? And I said to her, I said, listen, we've been down this road before, sweetie. And I adore her. I said, you're in and out of session. You know, like, you're not in this. I can't do this by myself. Like, I need your help. I need to work with you. How well is this working for you?
Yeah.
How well is this working for you? And I said to her, imagine this big boulder, and every time you lie, you're chipping away at your confidence. You're literally chipping away at your confidence and your self-worth. I said, now what we're up against is shame and avoidance, not just avoidance anymore. Now we're up against shame.
Yeah. Well, how do we leave those past negative thoughts behind us?
We can't. We can't. In other words, the thought is, I'm not good enough. So I need to do this because I won't be liked any other way. Right. Now that's going to come up for her because that is, she's actually acted on behalf of that. It's been a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's been, I always say, whatever you put strength into, grow stronger. That's where she's been putting her efforts, not into building her confidence. So right now it's like a mountain, right? We have to like really work on kind of like helping her down the mountain. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. Okay. And she's only going to think differently and feel that sense of worth if she does actions on behalf of that. And she builds and puts effort in strengthening that part of her. It's not going to be like snapping your fingers and saying like, which is what we're told, affirmations. I am so wonderful. I am so terrific. I am so beautiful, looking in the mirror, and all of a sudden, poof, we're going to manifest it. That's all BS. We're not manifesting anything. The only way we manifest is if we put action. It's all about action.
Right. So then what steps can she take or anyone to help build that growth mindset?
Yeah. So I said to her, don't buy into anything I'm saying. Literally. You prove it to yourself, right? But I'm going to give you the tools of what you need to do. If you put the effort into it, prove it to yourself, right? Prove it to yourself. I adore you and I'm here for you every step of the way. I believe in you. I believe in you, but I can't help you believe in yourself like that. We could help you with that. So what we did is we set up very small little tasks for her. I said to her, first of all, you need to come into session every week. There's no stepping in and stepping out. Unless you're invested in that, then you need to go see somebody else. I'm sorry. I love you, but I can't help you otherwise. And now you're serious. And now you want to put in the effort. I am here for you every step of the way. I'm not leaving your side. You know? So, right, helping her recognize that she has support and that I am here for her unconditionally. And that is the truth, right? The second thing is, so having the support that you need, everybody deserves that. We don't often have that, literally. So that's the one part of it. The second part of it is I said, to lean into your self-worth, you need to invest in yourself. So can I get your commitment to invest 10 minutes into yourself per day? 10 minutes, that's all it takes. And there may be times you don't feel like doing it, but you need to not feel like doing it and do it.
Right.
Whatever feeling comes up, put it out there. I'm feeling resistant. I'm feeling whatever. Put it out there. Still do it, right? And we kind of set up tasks with her. So she's gonna, I kind of gave her. She has a journal, and I gave little prompts to respond to every day. When does this avoidance come up? When are you feeling it? What thoughts and feelings follow? What's going on in your body? How do you feel like you want to behave? How do you inevitably behave? And again, it's not about, there's no outcomes. There's no attachment to outcomes. I'm not interested in whether she actually lied or not. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting more in tune with where she's at and what's going on for her.
So what would get in the way of her keeping this good habit?
Number one is it's automatic at this point. So she'll try to convince me that there's no space between the thinking and doing, which is not true. But she has to recognize that there is. And this happens all the time because I do a lot on like health and wellness. And people swear to me, I just ate the whole pie. Like, I didn't even think about it. And I'm like, really? Really? Okay. Well, let's slow you down a little bit. You had no thoughts in your head before you ate that pie, right? No thoughts. Like between eating one piece and eating the whole pie. Well, I was thinking I don't really need it because I kind of had a big dinner. I was thinking like I'll do better tomorrow and I'll exercise my way out of it. Well, I was thinking I like had a hard day and I really need this. And on and on.
Yeah.
But what did you do? You ignored it. Yeah. You ignored it. And you avoided the discomfort of being in that space and feeling shameful. Like, even though you know, right, that you want to make a better choice for yourself, that you're choosing not to. And to absolutely disregard and avoid that thought, you just ate it. But what are you left with afterwards? What goes on for you, right? It follows us. This is bears. So when you slow down, I teach a lot of mindfulness-based skills, right? Meditation practice, and that helps to slow us down and to actually be aware and be accountable for our thoughts and feelings because they're there. We can't deny them. They're there. But if we listen to ourselves and we care about ourselves, and I say to people, if you really care about yourself, how would you be behaving? If you were to ask yourself, what is leaning into my confidence or what is leaning out of my confidence? What behavior dictates that? What would you say to yourself? You can't do that if you're not thinking, if you're on automatic autopilot. There's a thought.
Right. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. You have to think about every step you're at, and the awareness is key.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. And some of it, again, we have the knowledge. There's so many resources out there. Right? Listen, you open up, I mean, now even with AI and ChatGPT, my goodness, like we don't even have to think anymore. Like literally, it's amazing. But we don't trust our gut. We don't trust ourselves.
This is so true. But in your book, you talk about self-actualization. What's one unconventional or surprising strategy that helps people move from self-doubt to self-mastery?
Yes, there are so many of them. And that really encapsulates my chapter on empowerment. So empowerment means taking action on behalf of your values. If I had to kind of summarize that. And, self-actualize is a word that, kind of is thrown around. It's a very mindfulness-based word, right? And it's like it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When we reach a self-actualized place is like enlightenment, if you want to use a Buddhist precept, right? That's coming to a place where you're interdependent, where you have a sense of autonomy, self-efficacy, and I could go on, right? All those beautiful words that we try to reach in our lives, hopefully. But we never really get there. And I don't want to ever get there, by the way. I always want to grow and I always want to evolve and I always want to change and I always want to reach out and challenge myself. I never want to reach an endpoint. There's no such thing.
Right.
Till the day I die, I want to evolve. And it's funny, if you think about it, every relationship, I know for myself, every relationship that I've been in, I see where I was at, why I invested in that relationship, what I learned from it, and what helped me in my future. Every single one of them, especially the painful, painful ones, I have to say, right? Because there are a lot of them. If we're evolving, we're beginning and ending relationships, by the way. Just saying.
Right.
Yes, that happens. So in terms of self-actualization and like tidbits, I have to say, it has to do with our mindset, the way that we speak to ourselves, which could be very self-deprecating, and also like reframing. I would say reframing. I always say to myself, how else can I see this? That's a really helpful. And I know this comes up a lot with my behaviors and my relationships,
Yeah.
where I will jump to conclusions, about somebody's intentions or the way that they're speaking to me. And that has to do with my core wounds and what's going on inside of me internally. And when I say, how else can I see this? Because I know for myself, my survival instinct as a child, because of what I went through in my life, was to go inwards. I was always protecting myself. I was always guarding myself. I had to. I survived that way. So it had utility when I was a kid. As an adult, it doesn't work so well for me. So when you go internally, like I needed to survive, sometimes I forget about what's outside of me, right? Because I'm in, and I say this with conviction because I didn't always believe this about myself. I actually thought I was a mean person. I did, because I had mean thoughts. I didn't have mean actions, but I did have mean thoughts, and I still do. Yeah. But that is a defense mechanism. And it was a way that I protected myself again, right? If I othered people, then I was protected. Yeah. So, or if I knew what to expect from others, I was protected. It was all about that. So now I really do. I say, how else can I see this? And I say, I go from being maybe discompassionate or judgmental to being compassionate.
Right.
Because I say to myself, what's going on for them? Or if they're behaving that way, what pain is internal for them?
Yeah.
And instead, I'll ask them, oh, like, what did you mean by that? Or did you mean to say that to me? Or I'm kind of having a reaction to it, but I want to understand maybe my reaction isn't exactly accurate. So I want to hear from you what that was about. And I won't say it in a judgmental, criticizing way. I'll say it in a loving, compassionate way. Those are taglines that you could work with.
Right.
Those are ways to connect to others. That's a way of being loving towards somebody else when you're giving somebody the benefit of the doubt, and when you're able to see their kindness, right, rather than chastise them. And this actually is coming up for me now in my work, in my personal work. I'm actually able to recognize like my regrets. And if you came over to me, if we had this conversation 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and you said to me, "Do you have any regrets in life?" I would tell you no. I would say, "Not really." I mean, yeah, I mean, I regret? Like everybody regrets, but I don't have any big regrets. I don't have any like things that I ponder over that I'm like vying for like, right? That's different today. That's very different today. Because I recognize that in, some relationships I was acting out of my core wounds.
Right.
I was not my best self. I wasn't. And I'm fully like a couple of nights I sat and I cried. I literally sat there and I cried because I said, wow, like I cried for my inner child, because I realized that for me to be behaving or judgmental in that kind of way, I must have been in such pain. And it made me so sad because I recognized that I didn't ever really give myself that self-compassion in the way that I needed to. And now, if you come over to me and you say, are you a generous, kind, loving human? Unequivocally, I will tell you yes, without reservation, even though I have mean thoughts. Be- because I act with kindness. Not every single time, because that's impossible, but I'm able to admit it, and I'm able to apologize, and I'm able to like recalibrate. I'm able to like be there. But I am my best self. I know that I am. I show up as my best self.
And your intentions are good. Your intentions are good.
Intentions don't matter. Intentions don't matter.
Oh,
Yeah, no, because many people have good intentions, but their actions are not kind and loving, and yeah,
oh.
yeah.
Well, I know that many of us try really hard to break out of that generational cycle of trauma and anxiety and unhealthy habits, right? But in doing so, how can we ensure that we're not just rejecting our past, but transforming it into doing something more meaningful, that losing the essence of where we came from?
I love that question. I love that question because there's so much trauma. I mean, just intergenerational trauma. And actually, that's where my childhood wounds are. My four grandparents were Holocaust survivors. Their entire families went into gas chambers and were murdered. Yes. And they observed it. Yes. Right. They were on lines. Yeah, they were on a line. Okay. To either go work or to go to the gas chambers and be murdered. And they were fortunate because they were of the age. They were in their late teens, so they were sent to work, but most of their family was sent to the gas chambers. So could you imagine coming from that? And they went to concentration camps, which, yeah, that's a whole other, right? So they parented my parents. Could you imagine how they parented my parents? So my parents are traumatized. And listen, I have like a deep compassion for my grandparents, my parents. You know, that doesn't mean that I excuse behavior because we still get impacted by it. But in order to not repeat patterns of behavior, because our brain is wired again for familiarity, okay, and comfort. And that is repeating patterns of behavior. Our neural pathways take the path of least resistance. Our brains don't like to work hard. They don't like new patterns of behavior. They like to repeat everything that's familiar and comfortable. So, yes, we're absolutely wired that way. And we will repeat those patterns unless we put effort into making things different for our future. I, luckily, knock on wood, did not repeat those patterns with my kids.
Yeah.
And again, my kids are not perfect by any means. I have four children, but I have four children that are good humans. That's all I wanted. I wanted them to be good humans. And I am proud of that. And whatever they will become in their lives, whatever, I am supportive of it. I want them to have a sense of confidence and a sense of self-awareness and a sense of self-worth. And that is the most important thing to me, honestly. And in order for us not to fall down that rabbit hole, that's so easy. It's so easy. We have to be able to have self-awareness, and we have to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly is hard to look at. Let me tell you, I cry many nights over it. I do.
Well, let's end on a more positive note because my final question to you is about happiness. Many people chase happiness as a goal, yet research suggests that the more we try, the more to be happy, the more elusive it becomes. In your experience, what's the biggest misconception about happiness, and what's a counterintuitive way to cultivate it without forcing it?
Yeah. I wrote an article about that, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. I just actually, I gave it to my students because I teach a master level class at NYU. I gave it to my students. I always give it like they're assigned to read it for the first day of class, and then they have to write it journals. They always write about it because they say like it gives them just such a different understanding about happiness. So happiness is toxic positivity, right? Like, we're always drawn to be happy. And if you look on social media, if you look all around us, what are the messages like that are being communicated to us? 10 ways to be happy, 20 ways to be happy. So if you think about that, the underlying message, the subliminal message is if we're not happy, there's something wrong with us. And no matter what emotion we're feeling, we need to, like, again, strive to be happy.
mm,
No emotion, we cannot sustain any emotion. What goes up must come down.
yeah.
Happiness, joyfulness, all of that is fleeting. Everything's fleeting. Not only that, if you think about your memories and how we're wired and the propensity of our brain, what happens is the difficult, painful memories are the ones that stick. The joyful, happy memories are fleeting.
Yeah.
If I ask you, think of a memory, right, that sticks in your mind that you have like very, very keen detail about, you're going to give me a painful memory. You're not going to give me a joyful memory because your joyful memories are not memories. That's why, how people say, if you're going through something like a wedding or whatever, make sure you take every moment in because it goes so quickly and you will not remember it. That is true. That is actually physiologically, cognitively, and neurobiologically true. So we have to make an effort to be present and mindful about those joyful moments. And we also have to recognize that every emotion, including happiness and joy, because joy and happiness leads us to understand what satisfies us and what gives us a sense of contentment. So I don't use the word happy. I tell people, get happiness out of your vocabulary. Use the word joyfulness. Use the word contentment. Use the word satisfying. Those are very different terms because that is a somatic response to our experience of what's going on for us in the present moment. And that, when I look into one of my children's eyes, and I am connecting with them, I feel that on the gut level, I feel that viscerally in my body. That's a very different experience than saying, "Oh, this is making me happy." I don't even know what that means. Yeah. So there's no striving for anything. We don't get attached to anything. No attachment to happiness, no attach. And people say this, please make me happy. I don't want to be sad anymore. Yeah. I stayed, what actions are you going to take in order to have a fulfilling life? What does that mean to you? Not like, let's strive towards being happy, because I don't even know what that means. So to summarize,
Yep.
everybody has the opportunity to live a fulfilling life and to live the life they want. And my book is, I talk about how our brains are wired. I talk, because we need to know that. I talk about our values and how to cultivate that so that you have a foundation. I talk about acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. I talk about the barriers to each and how to cultivate that in your life. It's a roadmap. This is something I live, breathe, eat, sleep, etc. And my life has transformed. And I teach it to people I work with and my students. And I see changes. And gosh, I literally am thrilled to come into my office every single day to work with people. I really feel that in my heart because I see life. I see people living the life they want, and it's just so satisfying to me.
I can see it. I can see that. I think I'm in place to say that this was a very, very satisfactory and joyful interview. Dr. Michelle Maidenberg, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Maidenberg just gave us some next level insights on mastering our minds and stepping into our fullest potential. If you're ready to take action on everything you just heard, please check her out on our website at michellemaidenberg.com. And remember, self-awareness isn't just a skill, it's your superpower. Keep leveling up, keep owning who you are, and I'll see you next time on different facets of happiness. Stay bold and stay unstoppable. I'm Jackie Denise.